You guys, I hope you had a nice weekend and had a nice day off on Monday. I'm going to record a video regarding the review, even though there was only, I believe, 7 people who responded to the Google form. But I will go through at least one or two from each section, and some of you asked a little bit more to go through, so I will be going through those as well. Great. So for the quiz tomorrow, you will be receiving an email from me with a specific version of the quiz because there's multiple. You'll be starting at your class time, okay? And everyone should be finished by the end of the class, but obviously if you need more time, just let me know because I know online it takes a bit longer to complete these quizzes. Um, so please double check your email. Hopefully everything will go as planned tomorrow because today we had a little bit of an issue accessing the quiz plus a PDF. You will be also sent a PDF that has a chart that you will be filling out and then uploading as well as the unit circle. So you will be completing a full unit circle and uploading it to wherever it says it on the quiz. Okay, and as a reminder, even though we're on distance learning, I expect that you are completing a quiz, test, formative, whatever it may be, as we would do in the classroom. So I expect you to not use your notes, use anyone else's help, and or use your phones, whatever it is, okay? You're treating this as if you were in front of me taking this assessment. Okay, I just want to clarify because a lot of people have been having questions about that. Okay, so you will receive an email from me, okay, with a version of the quiz, and you are starting it during your class time. I will be available for a Google Meet for any extra help, last minute questions that you need tomorrow before each class. Okay, if you have any questions before then, send me an email and I will get back to you in a timely fashion. All right, let's go through this review. I posted an updated answer key because some of them were left blank and there was no work done out. So this will help you out a bit, okay? Or actually completely. So let's go through this. Okay, your 30, 60, 90s across from 30 is your A value. So that is always going to equal A. Okay, across from 60 is your A root 3, and across from your hypotenuse, oops, is 2A. Okay, so we know that your shorter side length across from 30 is 9. So your Y value is going to be 9 root 3. And your hypotenuse is 2 times your side length. So this is going to be 18. Okay, that's filling out a special right triangle given the shorter side. Now, if you look at number 3 for 45, 45, 90, X and Y are going to be equal to each other. Okay, they're giving you your hypotenuse, which is equal to A root 2. Okay, divide both sides by root 2. So you have 9 over root 2. Have to multiply top and bottom by root 2 because you can't have a radical in the denominator. So this equals, both side lengths would equal 9 root 2 over 2. So x and y would equal 9 root 2 over 2. Okay, and then number 5. Across from 60, as we know, is your side length times root 3. Across from 30 is your side length. Across from your 90 degrees is your hypotenuse, which is 2a. So in order to figure this out, we divide both sides by root 3. Well, again, you can't have a radical in the denominator, so we have 6 over root 3. Multiply top and bottom by root 3. Okay, so from here, you have 6 root 3 over 3, which now could be reduced to 2 root 3. So that is your a value, 2 root 3. Now, your hypotenuse is 2 times a, so it's 2 times 2 root 3, which equals 4 root 3. Okay, so that should clarify your special rates. Okay, and one thing here I put on my key, and I think it's on the other key that was posted, this angle is 60 degrees. Okay, so you know. All right, moving down to this one. Now, let me just clarify. You will see problems like 13, 15, 16, 19. Okay, so it's finding your missing side lengths. I'm going to go through both of them and the ones that aren't circled or where you have to find the degree, just so you understand the concept. So if we look at number 13, we are seeing this angle here. Well, we're given opposite over adjacent. So according to SOHCAHTOA, are we using sine, cosine, or tangent? In this particular case, we are using tangent because it's opposite over adjacent. So when we figure this out, and make sure you're in degrees, okay, make sure your calculator's in degrees, you would go to the mode key, which is right next to the second key, mode, then you scroll down 3 where you see radians and degrees. If radians is blinking, move it over to the right hand side where it says degree, hit enter, and then it will become solid eventually. So then you're in degrees. So in this particular case, we're using tangent. So we're going to do tangent of the angle given, 49, equals to x over 7. Okay, so from here, we have to solve for x. So in order to do that, we multiply both sides by 7, and we use our calculator. Okay, so this cancels out. 7 times tangent of 49. Okay, so hopefully you could see my calculator screen. Just to kind of recap to put in degrees, you have mode, okay, and you go to the third one down where you see radians. Typically, if you reset your settings or you never change this in the first place, when you scroll down to radians, that would be solid. But in order to change it to degrees, you press the right arrow to degrees and hit enter. So that means you are in degrees when it's solid like that. Okay, so we need to find 7 times the tangent of 49. So that gives us 8.05, which if we were rounding to the 10th spot, x is going to equal 8.1. Okay, so that's finding this segment. Okay, so you look at what's given to you and you use SOHCAHTOA, sine opposite over hypotenuse, cosine adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent opposite over adjacent. Okay, so if you look at number 16, it's giving you a few options. and you will get the same answer. So if you use 68, this is opposite over hypotenuse, which would be sine. If you use 22, you're given adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be cosine. So if we did sine of 68 equals 8 over x, you would have to solve this by multiplying both sides by x, and then, so this cancels, then you would divide by both sides, sine of 68. So you would have 8 over sine of 68. So that would look like 8 divided by sine of 68, which you will end up getting rounded to the tenths, 8.6. Okay, if we did the same thing for cosine, we will get the same answer because you're measuring the same side length. Okay, now a lot of you had questions on if you need to find the degree, okay, the angle measure. So in order to find that, we use something called the inverse. Okay, so if you look at your calculator, and I'll pull it up for you right here. If you look at your calculator and you see sine, cosine, and tangent, and then you see sine to the negative first, cosine to the negative first, tangent to the negative first. Well, that's if you're given, say, an exact value. If I am given root 3 over 2, okay, and I put that in, that's going to give me the degrees back, and that's what we're trying to find. So if we look at this example here, we need to find this angle. Well, we're given opposite over hypotenuse, which is sine. So we set this up by sine to the negative first over, oops, sine to the negative first, parentheses 12 over 28. Okay, and we're rounding to the nearest degree. You won't see these on your quiz, but it is good to know, okay, for the future. So when we have second sine to the negative first, and it was 12 over 28. So our angle measurement is 25 degrees. Okay, so that's what you would do when you're missing an angle measure. So for 17, 18, 20, and 21, you would use this notation. Obviously, depending on what's given to you. If you're given adjacent over hypotenuse, you use cosine. If you're given opposite over adjacent, you use tangent. Okay, so I hope that answered your questions regarding how to answer these guys here. All right, let's check out what is next. Okay, so this says let -3, 7 be a point on the terminal side. So that's where it ends up. Terminal means where it's ending. Find the exact values of trig functions. So -3, 7 is in what quadrant? First, second, third, or fourth? Well, my x value is negative. My y is positive. So that means I am in the second quadrant. So when you're doing these, you're sketching a triangle always from the origin. Okay, always from the origin. You have a right triangle and you're measuring from the origin. So this is -3. This is 7. And you're trying to find your hypotenuse. And one thing to keep in mind, your hypotenuse is always positive. So we use the Pythagorean theorem. -3 squared, and again, A or B could be any side, equals C squared. Okay, so we have 9 plus 49 equals C squared. Okay, you end up getting 58 equals C squared. Obviously, we take the square root, so C equals plus or minus square root of 58. Now, since this is the hypotenuse, we're going to use the positive. So your missing side is the square root of 58. Okay, so now we find the sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse. So it's 7 over root 58. We cannot have a radical in the denominator, so you have to multiply top and bottom by root 58. So we end up getting 7 times square root of 58 over 58. Okay, then for cosine, it's adjacent over hypotenuse, which means -3 over root 58. So again, we have to rationalize. So -3 root 58 over 58. Okay, and last but not least is tangent, which is opposite over adjacent, which is 7 over -3. Okay, so once you find the missing side length, you're able to use SOHCAHTOA to find sine, cosine, and tangent, okay, based off this point that we're given. Okay, you would be doing the same thing, and just to keep in mind that you're leaving answers in simplified radical form if necessary. So if you have a radical, you want to simplify as much as you can. If it cannot be simplified, then you leave as is. Okay, so 23 and 24 are the same exact thing as what we did above. So definitely check the updated key for work done out. Okay, then if we look at 25, okay, you're just gonna draw a triangle. Okay, we're finding our values here. We're gonna draw a triangle, and it's not telling us a quadrant. Oops. So we're gonna do our best to draw a triangle. Okay, let me just erase that because that does not look good at all. Okay, does not look like a triangle. So I'm gonna use these lovely little tools here. Okay, so you're drawing a triangle, and it's a right triangle, and this is theta, your angle of measurement. So across from theta, you have -7 because it's opposite over adjacent, and this is 12. So again, we use Pythagorean theorem, -7 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. So -7, and you have to have parentheses, remember that, plus 12 squared equals c squared. So we have 49 plus 144, which is 193, is equal to c squared. Take the square root, and we end up with plus or minus square root of 193. But the hypotenuse is always positive, so this is 193. Okay, and that is your missing side length. So now you have all three pieces in order to figure out sine, cosine, and tangent. So sine, -7 over root 193. Again, we have to rationalize. Okay, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. We have to rationalize here too. So we get 12 root 193 over 193. Okay, your tangent is opposite over adjacent, so we end up getting negative 7/12. Okay, so that's what you have to do for the rest on this page. Okay, remember tangent is y over x. So again, here you're finding your hypotenuse. It's adjacent, it's opposite over adjacent. Okay, all right. So for 29, state positive and negative coterminal angle with 60 degrees. Okay, positive, you add 360. So 60 plus 360 gives us 420. Okay, then for negative coterminal angle, you subtract 360. So 60 minus 360 gives us negative 300. Okay, so positive coterminal angle, you're adding. Negative coterminal angle, you're subtracting. Okay, so now if we look at draw the following angles, then state the reference angle. Okay, we're going to look at B and C because A is on the unit circle. So for B, 780, well, that's a coterminal angle of something. So we need to find where it falls on the unit circle. Well, since it's greater than 360, you keep subtracting 360 until you're within the unit circle, which is 0 and 360. So once we subtract, we know 780 is equal to 60 degrees. So that means that's the reference angle. Okay, so for 780, the reference angle is 60 degrees. Now this went around twice. So we have one rotation, two rotations, ending back at 60 degrees. So reference angle 60. Now for C, negative 135 is going in the clockwise direction. Okay, so to figure out where it falls within the unit circle, we add 360 and we end up getting 225. Okay, so 225 is roughly here. Okay, but note that this went counterclockwise. This one is going clockwise. Okay, so at 225, what's the reference angle? Well, the closest x-axis is 180. So we do 225 minus 180, and that gives us 45 as a reference angle. Okay, no one requested to see these, but I'll go through them as a review. Okay, so 150 is in quadrant 2. Okay, the coordinates of 150 are negative root 3 over 2 and 1/2, which the reference angle of 150, we take 180 minus 150 and get 30 degrees. Okay, your sine of 150 is your y value, okay, which equals 1/2. Cosine is your x value, which is equal to negative root 3 over 2. Okay, now your tangent is y over x. So we know y is 1/2 and our x is negative root 3 over 2. So what this looks like is 1/2 over negative root 3 over 2. Now we have to multiply top and bottom by the reciprocal. Okay, so what happens here? Denominator cancels as well as the 2's cancel. So I end up with 1 over root 3, and the whole thing is negative. Well, again, we can't have a radical in the denominator. Multiply top and bottom by root 3. So we end up getting negative root 3 over 3 as our tangent value for 150. So one thing about tangent, if you're not sure, when you go through the unit circle, on the outer edge next to the coordinates, in another color, write what tangent would be at that degree. So it would help you. Okay, so name two coterminal angles, one positive, one negative. One positive, we add 360 to 150 to get 510 degrees. And then for one negative coterminal, 150 minus 360, we get negative 210. Okay, so again, you would do that for these guys here. Okay, figuring out the quadrant and what have you. And then on the next page, it goes through giving you a point. Okay, so if we look at 37, they give us this coordinate point 1/2 and negative root 3 over 2. Well, where is x positive? X is positive 1 and 4. And where is y negative? Y negative is 3 and 4. Well, what do they have in common? Quadrant 4. So quadrant 4 is where your x is positive, your y is negative. Now we have 1/2 and negative root 3 over 2. What angle is that? That's 300. And we know that because the reference angle is 60. Okay, so the sine of 30 degrees is your y, 300 degrees, sorry, is your y value, which is negative root 3 over 2. Your cosine is your x value, which is 1/2. And your tangent is your y over x. So negative root 3 over 2 and 1/2. So very simply, your tangent will be negative root 3. And this is what it looks like. If I have negative root 3 over 2 over 1/2, I'm multiplying top and bottom by 2 over 1. So what happens? Denominator cancels as well as 2 over 2. So you get negative root 3 over 1, which is equal to negative root 3. Okay, so from there, for 300, you would find one positive, one negative. So one positive coterminal, you add 360 to get 660. One negative, you would subtract 360 to get negative 60 degrees. Okay, so that's what you would do for these guys here. Then they're giving you coterminal angles, either positive or negative coterminal angles. Okay, so meaning it's going to, you have to figure out where it falls on the unit circle and find the exact value. So it's going to be one of the coordinate points. Okay, so if we have cosine of negative 45, well, negative 45 is going in the clockwise position, but if I need to figure out what the value is, cosine is my x, I add 360 to negative 45 and see that cosine of negative 45 is the same thing as cosine of 315. Okay, so you look to see 315, your cosine value is x, and that would be root 2 over 2. Okay, so if we look at tangent, some of you have questions a lot on tangent, so I'm going to show you a few. Tangent, negative 45. Well, same degree here, so this is the same thing as tangent of 315. So the coordinate point for 315 is root 2 over 2 and negative root 2 over 2. Well, it's y over x. What happens when you have the same number over itself? Well, negative root 2 over 2 divided by root 2 over 2. That's how we get the negative 1. That equals negative 1. So the values of tangent are either going to be negative 1, positive 1, 0, undefined, or root 3, negative root 3, or root 3 over 3, or negative root 3 over 3. So those are your values for tangent. Okay, so for tangent of 420, well, we have to subtract 360, and this means it's the same thing as tangent of 60 degrees. Well, 60 degrees is 1/2 and root 3 over 2. Tangent is y over x. So your tangent of 420, your tangent of 60 is going to be root 3. Okay. All right. And the last one I'll show you here is 51. Tangent of 150. Well, we add 360 to figure out this is tangent, oops, of 210. Okay. So the coordinate for 210 is negative root 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. And it's just like the example I showed before, y over x. So negative 1 over negative root 3, and you have to rationalize, and you end up getting root 3 over 3, which is positive. Okay, so hopefully that helps going through some of the tangents for you. Okay, in this section to find the exact values. Now, if we move on to convert each radian into in degrees. So remember, if you're given a radian, the conversion is 180 over pi. That is the formula. So 9 pi over 6, I know that came up. This could be reduced to 3 pi over 2, which is 270. Okay, so your conversions, remember, you're not actually, you can multiply if you want, but from here, you are crossing out your pi's, okay? Then if you were to multiply 5 times 180 divided by 4, you would get 225 degrees, okay? Now for convert each degrees to radians, so you're given a degree, and it's pi over 180. You're not actually multiplying by pi, you're actually tacking it on and reducing. So if we look at 450, I know that wasn't on the key for some reason. We multiply by pi over 180. Okay, so you would reduce 450 over 180, and you end up getting 5 pi over 2, okay, as your answer. Right. Now these guys are just find the sine, cosine, tangent, whatever's given to you. in radian measure. Okay, in the radian measure. So cosine of 3 pi over 4 is 135. Cosine is your x value. So that equals negative root 2 over 2. Okay, so you would go through this based on the unit circle. If you look at 72, tangent pi over 2, we know pi over 2 is 90 degrees. Well, that coordinate point is 0 and 1. And we know tangent is y over x. 1 over 0 is undefined. So tangent is undefined at 90 and 270. Okay, 90 and 270. All right. At 0, 360, and 180, tangent is 0. Okay. Now the cosine of pi, it's negative 1, 0. The cosine is your x value. So the cosine of pi is negative 1. Okay. So I hope this video helped by going through review and the updated key. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Feel free to send me a quick email, or if you have questions on anything else, please let me know. I believe I'm going to check one more time to see if there's any other questions that I need to answer. But if not, good luck tomorrow. If you have any questions, obviously hop on the meet and we'll get those all cleared away. Just make sure you are filling out a complete unit circle, degrees, radians, and coordinates. Okay. And there's a chart that you will be filling out that needs to be uploaded. All right, you guys, so there was no further questions. I covered a little bit from each piece. And remember, if we go back to this first page, questions like 14, 17, 18, you will not be asked those on the quiz, okay? You will be asked something like 13 and 15, all right? So just keep that in mind. You will be finding the missing segments, but you will not be finding the angle measure, okay? So I hope that helps. Again, tomorrow you will be receiving an email from me with the quiz, okay, plus the attachment of PDF. If there's any issues receiving these, please send me a quick email or respond to the post so I could get you all situated. All right. Good luck tomorrow. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.